his online trade school. 85% margins. He's doing $3 million top line revenue, and it's revenue paid by the government. He gets free leads.
There's always a business to make something a little bit easier.
The prompt is the thing that most people get hung up on because they're like, how do I make money? They don't know the right question to ask.
Chatbot or a rapper or something that's like, okay, help me find ideas that are mine, that I am philosophically, maybe literally bought into.
If you can start messing around with this now, I promise you we are still super early.
Just zooming out real quick, you've seen the memes on Twitter, like Charlie Light. It's like screenshot someone's biography on LinkedIn, and it's like, he was a SaaS bro, then he was a crypto bro, then he was an expert in NFTs, then he was an expert in ICOs, now he's an expert in AI. And it's like, we just hop from trend to trend. I just feel like this time it's different. AI is different. Like it is changing the world like I've never seen. How do you close your eyes? You're like, no, I don't want to talk about it because it's the new trend and I want to buck the new trend and talk about home services. Like, no, it's incredible and we're going to talk about it.
Okay, so this idea is a long-term, this isn't a cigarette butt idea. This is a long-term idea. I'm stealing it from your episode with James Camp because I freaking loved it. Detox centers. And I'm using detox very broadly. I'm not just talking about drugs, alcohol, but dude, and the thing you guys didn't talk about, pornography.
I was going to bring that up today too.
Were you?
Crazy. Yeah, I got stuff for this.
Okay. Like, yes, there's gambling. Yes, people are addicted to their phones and dopamine, but like with young men in particular, pornography is a really big deal. And I think in the same way that when we grew up in the 90s and everything was microwaved and we had fruit roll-ups and there's, yellow 5 and red dye 16 in our foods. Now we're like, hey, we got to go organic. I can't believe my parents fed me this, all this stuff. I think our kids are going to be like very strict with what devices they allow in the house, what you're able to watch, how it's streamed, protections that are involved, etc. And pornography addiction is a very real addiction. Having these retreats or centers or like things focused around not the drugs, not the alcohol, but addiction centers for digital addictions. I know that sounds so stupid. And anybody listening might think, oh, digital addictions aren't a real thing. They're a real thing. I mean, scrolling on Instagram, scrolling on TikTok, they're real things. And so I think that idea is a very interesting one.
I completely agree. And I will say, like, the difference between how the public perceives pornography today versus 5 years ago, I would say like any millennial, anyone today aged, call it 25 to 45, they grew up with pornography accessible in the house, if nothing else from like the family computer. Okay. So I would reckon that over 90% of millennials in some form or fashion have had a lot of crossover with pornography in their life. But the difference today is it's becoming more generally acceptable that pornography is bad, like for physical reasons, mental reasons,
relationship reasons,
spiritual relationship, you name it. 5 years ago, there's nothing wrong with this. Like everyone looks at it, they're not even struggling with it because there's nothing wrong with it. Right. But today there's more data, there's more studies, and it's like, okay, yeah, maybe there is a trade-off to this. Maybe there is something bad about this. Because if we launched this business 5 years ago, it's probably too early, right?
Well, have you seen the studies? I mean, testosterone in men today versus men in the 1950s. 60-year-old men in the 1950s had a higher testosterone level than 20-year-old men today.
Yeah, that's a fact.
That's craziness. You look at studies with loneliness in particular in young men, and when it's just easier for them to open a computer and scroll and be distracted than to go on a date with a woman or to meet people out in public, it's a massive problem. Epidemic of loneliness, depression, suicide, all of those things. And I think that they're linked to digital media. So anyways, as I was like listening to your James Camp episode, I couldn't believe you guys didn't bring it up. I was like waiting for you to mention it. But yeah, gambling, sure. But the phone, putting your phone away and like having these retreats where it's just off and you are able to engage with people and you have these meaningful interactions, facilitating those, having a business that facilitates those would be amazing.
You know, what's interesting is last summer, my two oldest, boy and girl, went to summer camps for church, and I chaperoned both of them, and both of them had the same rule. And I wasn't in charge. I was just chaperoning. No phones. Like literally they put their phones in like a Yeti cooler and they lock it in the leader's tent for the entire time. Okay. So I got to witness this on the girls and on the boys' side. And we're out in nature the whole time. Zero complaints from both weeks from one person. Not even one person complained that they didn't have their phone. No one was bored. They had an amazing time. Not one person was like, oh, I missed I got to play Candy Crush. What are my friends doing? They were fine. They're good. Like we crave that. It is, I leave my phone at home sometimes on accident. My first gut reaction is like, dang it, oh, my phone. And then it's like, oh, this is nice. This is nice.
Yeah. I mean, and in many ways it's been helpful because like if people have Apple Watches and they get notifications, or they've got their computers, like they're constantly ding, 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 notifications happening. But I think, have you heard of these things called, what are they called? Faraday cages?
Mm-hmm.
Where, so essentially the Faraday cage will block, I think the term is electromagnetic waves.
Yeah.
And that's how phone signals are transmitted, is through electromagnetic waves. You literally can't even get a message even if you wanted it. So some people put their phones in bags when they go to sleep. Some people have a basket at the front of their house. But I think selling those types of things where it's like limiting your access. James has a brick on his phone where like literally he can't even get messages. You have a setup on your phone. I remember, where were we? We were in Texas, and we were like getting in and out. And I was like, oh, dude, I want to see your tweet really quick. And you're like, yeah, I can't. I'm like, what do you mean you can't? You're like,
this is awkward.
You're like, oh, I have Opal set up where between like 4 and 6, I don't remember what the time is. 4 and 6, I don't have access to Twitter. And I'm like, I know, but it's really important. Couldn't you just go and like change the settings really quick? And you're like, no, I like can't even change the settings until after that window is closed anyways. So like we're not seeing it for the next 2 hours. So I think those types of demand are growing, and starting a business around facilitating real experiences would be incredible.
You know what's crazy to me is, so my oldest, 14 and a half, he has a phone. He got a phone for his 14th birthday, first time. He has all kinds of screen time restrictions set up. I can manage that from my phone. Brawl Stars is his favorite game. He can play that for half an hour a day. He has a ton of access to ESPN because he loves sports. I asked him just yesterday, and we live in a nice, affluent area, caring parents. They're all involved in their kids' lives. I said, how many of your friends have screen time restrictions on their phones? Like, they all have phones, sure. Any sort of restriction? 0. None of them.
Really?
None of them. Yeah. Like at church, it's pretty common at our church, but like most of his friends are not in our church. 0 restrictions, which is just crazy to me. Crazy.
That is really crazy to me.
Apple made that a feature for a reason, right? And I'm shocked that tiny little sample size here. I'm just shocked that more people don't use it for their kids.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is, and maybe there could be a business developed around this, I am terrible about missing meetings. That's just like a natural nickism. And it's gotten way worse ever since I started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. And I started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb because I just kept getting notification after notification after notification after text after call and it was just like, all right, I have to be able to focus, and this phone is distracting me. So I put it in Do Not Disturb. And then you and I have had conversations, and you're like, you're not available. Finally got to the point this last week where I decided I got to figure out how to at least let some notifications through, et cetera. So you can set it where it's like, all right, from this app, I can get these notifications from this person. I think you could do that in these retreats. And maybe that's your software where it's like, before you go, here are the 3 people that my phone is allowed to be notified of. And the phones are kept somewhere with an employee who's monitoring them. And then when they get to the camp, they're doing their thing. And if bling, one of the 3 people on their emergency contact list pops up, then they immediately get notified in the camp, right? Because there is that fear of like, well, what happens if my son is sick or my wife gets injured or whatever? There's an emergency. I don't know that there are one-offs that you can do in Apple. Maybe there are, but I think that would be a really cool way up front to just like have a questionnaire. They fill it out, and then the software does it for you, and it creates it, because that would make it really easy and accessible.
Yeah, like I think it should be a retreat where it's like no phones, right? That's the whole point. But then at the end of it, it's like, okay, you're clearly going to go back to having phones. Let's talk about some healthy principles. Like, here's how to use your iPhone settings. You know what I'm saying? Because it's unrealistic to say you're not going to go back to a phone. Here's how to manage it better. Because most people don't know, and we're not incentivized to learn how to turn off notifications because we want the dopamine.
We went to the moon in 1967, whatever the year was.
69.
1969. It was the summer of 69, as some would say.
JFK got shot.
I got my last real 16. Anyways, we have more compute power in our pockets than was on the craft that guided them to the moon. And we use it 99% of the time for scrolling entertainment apps. So I love your idea. It's like you could totally tailor this thing so that it works well for you. That could be a business in and of itself. Just that might be a really cool AI info product, right? It's like, hey, Chris, wow, we iterated to this. I'm actually really excited about this because this wasn't even on my radar. The info product that you sell is teaching people how to limit their screen usage by giving them knowledge on where to go in their existing settings and change them. Does that make sense? Where it's like the course you sell is this digital product teaching them how to limit their access on screen time.
Yeah, or the AI chatbot buddy that you sell, right? The prompt that you sell. And then all the haters in the comments, you can't build a business around a prompt. There are already thousands and they're doing great.
They're doing amazing. Well, dude, I remember we were talking about this and you were like, oh, you could set up ChatGPT to be a phone number in your phone and you can text with them.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT just released these things called tasks where you can set it up to remind you or go do things, whatever. You could literally you could sell a course showing people how to set up on their phones anytime that they accessed an app, boop, to get a text from ChatGPT. Hey, just want to remind you, you're trying to limit screen time today. No judgment. Just wanted to make sure you knew that this was the third time that you've done this in the last hour. You know what I mean? Like it can go anywhere from my wife, which is like, what the freak are you doing? This is the third time you've used this in an hour, to like, Mahatma Gandhi. Hey, no judgment. I get it. You can do this if you want, but it's been 3 times. You know what I mean? Like you could totally tailor the spectrum of how hard it's going to be. That would be a freaking cool info product.
Yeah. Do you mean an actual info product or like a wrapper, like an AI wrapper?
You could totally do the wrapper. I'm just saying, start with an info product. If you want to know how to do this, dude, oh my gosh, sorry, my mind is going right now. All you're doing, you're selling a prompt.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to do this? Yeah, I want to do this. Show me how to customize my iPhone so that I don't do X, Y, and Z. Cool. Pay me $20. Here's $20. Cool. Here's the prompt. Put that into ChatGPT. It'll walk you through step by step. That's it.
Dude, so I did research for selling prompts. There's a website called promptbase.com where you can buy and sell prompts.
No way.
Yeah. And you're literally just buying the text, the prompt. And this is a pretty big business.
Holy balls.
Like look at these Mid-Journey prompts on the homepage, $4 to $8 each.
Tons of art, abstract paintings. That's freaking incredible.
So many levels to this. Like, okay, I could go buy this Intricate Nights Celestial prompt on Mid-Journey for $3.99. I pay $4 for that once, and then I take it over to Etsy and I could sell prints using that exact prompt, like downloadable prints using that exact prompt for $4 each. $4 once, sell them for $4 each. Like,
oh my gosh. Dude, I just clicked on productivity, personal financial advisor for my budget. And it's a very long, thorough prompt. It gives examples. It tells you exactly what information it needs you to enter in order for the prompt to return the right type of advice. It's $4. They're selling it for $4.
Let me take it a step further, Nick. Take that $4 prompt, buy it, and then go to Replit and then use that prompt to make a chatbot, and then go to cursor.ai and then turn that chatbot into an iPhone app, and then go to the Apple App Store and sell it for $4.99 or $2.99 a month. Like you buy a $4 prompt, you use free tools or tools that cost $20 a month, like Replit, to turn it into an app, turn it into an iPhone app. Now you have a SaaS company. What are we talking about here, Nick?
This is insane. I've never been on the site. Okay, I just there's a section for marketing and real estate. Here's a prompt for $5. Real estate listing description generator. So it prompts you, it tells you all the things that you need to enter into it. There's a script written, and then it will spit out a really high value description.
You can turn that into an app or a software
product.
There's
hire a prompt engineer prompt.
Yeah. So video is cool, but you know what's better? Long form audio via podcast and my newsletter, tkopod.com. Go there to subscribe for free to my newsletter. It's 1 email a week, very tactical, 1,500 words per email. And then go to my audio podcast, 3 episodes a week, stuff like this. You're going to love it. All free, no sleazy sales pitch, tkopod.com. How many 63-year-old real estate agents named Carol in Omaha, Nebraska know anything about ChatGPT? But how many of them would pay $5 for an iPhone app that uses that $5 prompt?
Real estate property evaluator prompt. Real estate agent Bob prompt. Oh my gosh. How to make money in real estate prompt. This is insane. We've talked about this. It's the prompt. The prompt is the thing that most people get hung up on because they're like, how do I make money? They don't know the right question to ask. You now have a database of questions that people ask that you can then start interfacing with ChatGPT to do.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like Google 20 years ago. You work for Google, you learn like from the inside out how SEO works. And then you go launch a company, you get accepted to Y Combinator, built on SEO, because you learn those principles from the inside of Google, right? Imagine people working for OpenAI, really learning how prompts work and using that to leverage in their own businesses. Because like Google was all about, okay, SEO is a black box. There are backlinks, there are on-page SEO, off-page SEO. Oh, how do you figure this out? And you build entire industries, not businesses, but industries around SEO. Maybe a website built on SEO, maybe an SEO agency where you do it for other people. It's the same thing, but prompts at OpenAI are what SEO is for Google. SEO is like how a website talks to the internet. Prompts are like how you talk to AI.
Dude, again, we both talked to James Camp. He's about our age. He's a little bit younger, and he started doing SEO as a teenager. He just got interested. He was curious. And then he talked about the series of events that happened that led him kind of to where he is. And all of that started just because he was curious. And he kept following that curiosity, and he kept getting better and better. And he picked an industry that was growing like crazy. Like you said this several times, rising tide lifts all boats. He was riding the right wave. And I think the reason I wanted to keep talking about AI in these episodes is because it forces us to continue to look at it and get more ideas and understand what is coming. If you can start messing around with this now, I promise you we are still super early. You're going to see many, many opportunities. That's why many of the founding members of OpenAI are gone, because they went to start their own companies. They saw other opportunities that they could go and do. It isn't necessarily because Sam Altman is the devil, although they may have disagreements with him. It's because, man, my financial opportunity is way better because I'm seeing these opportunities having worked inside the machine.
I want a site like this is my long-term AI idea for today. And then I'll give you a dumb little kitschy one after that.
Okay.
Where's the prompt base for turning prompts into SaaS products? I don't know of a website doing that. And I did my research. So like Replit can help you code, Cursor can help you code apps. But like I want to build my own app that's like built on a prompt, but it's a chatbot, it's an LLM. But I only want to do it in a few clicks because I'm just a dumb internet marketer. I'm not a coder. How can I actually take a prompt that I buy for $4 from PromptBase and turn it into a $4 a month SaaS product with a few clicks? I don't know if that exists yet. It's going to.
It exists, but not with a few clicks, because
you could do it with Replit, Cursor, with all those.
You can even do it with ChatGPT where you're like, how do I create my own calendar system? I don't want to use TidyCal and I don't want to use Calendly. How can I create my own app that I can send to people? They can look at my calendar and they can schedule. And you can start that process with OpenAI or ChatGPT, and it'll tell you, okay, well, you'll need to do this and you'll need to get this API key and you'll need to then code this. Okay, how do I code that? I've never coded that before. Give me a step-by-step process, right? It's very iterative because it's waiting on the question from you so that it can answer the question that you give it. But I think what you're saying is, how do I give it a general idea and overview of, I want to build my own Calendly, and then just have it execute on that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like in a box, like a LLM SaaS product in a box. The last step of the process is like submit to the App Store for approval, even, tip to tail.
So it would be like, hey, I don't like Calendly or TidyCal. I want to create my own. Help me do that. And then it asks you a question. Okay, what feature would you like? Would you like this? This is how these work. Okay, blah, blah, blah.
All right. Give me your Zapier API credentials. Give me this, give me that.
After 30 minutes of it asking you the questions, it goes, cool, I know what you want. Here you go. And then you test it. And then you would say, all right, submit this to the App Store for approval.
Yeah. And maybe this is just what Replit will look like in 6 months, right? Maybe that's just where we're going. But I feel like it could be simplified even more. That's just a good framework. Like everything can be simplified even more. There's always a business to make something a little bit easier. I saw this Instagram reel of you got the motocross bikes. How do you get it in the back of a truck? You put like a 2x6 as a ramp leaned up against the trucks. You get it up there. Then you get straps. You strap down the handlebars. You strap it. You got it like, because it can't be tilted, yada, yada. So there's this new product that's just like this metal bar that sits in your truck, and you put your motocross bike in there and you just attach it to the handlebars. And they're selling millions of these things. And this isn't anything new. We can use straps, but it's like 10% easier than straps. $10 million product, right? Like there's just as a framework, making something a little bit simpler or easier or less friction will always be a good business opportunity.
Chris, are you ready for this?
Let's do it.
I didn't talk to you about this. You have no idea what's about to hit you, my friend. I have an announcement to make.
Oh, shoot. I
declare bankruptcy. No, I'm just kidding. Dude, we have probably 5,000 downloads in our first week, 3 to 5. I can't remember exactly where we are. If you include YouTube, it's more than that. I want to see every week, and we could pick AI rapper of the week. If there's somebody who creates something really cool, send it to us. I would love to see what people are creating.
Someone asked me the other day, what is a rapper? So explain to everyone what a rapper is. Okay. You couldn't.
I couldn't do it. I feel like I've been talking a lot. I want you to explain the rapper.
Rapper / white label is basically the same thing. You're taking something that's complex and expensive and harder to build, maybe VC funded, like OpenAI, and you're just putting something on top. You're just a middleman. It's like a technical middleman for something. So, for instance, here's a rapper idea. I want to sell an app in the App Store that helps sourdough bread bakers bake better bread. Okay. That is just going to be a ChatGPT wrapper. It's going to be a prompt, but it's going to be like Christmas wrapper. Right? We're wrapping it in better branding and more positioning and marketing, yada, yada, yada.
The only thing I would say to add on to that is I think we're using wrapper very broadly, because I would also apply wrapper to OpenAI just released ChatGPT tasks. So what you can do is you can schedule tasks. And here's a very simple example of a task. Hey, I create my food calendar every month where I plan out what my food's going to be. I want to make sure that I have 6 meals with fish, 6 meals with chicken, and 6 meals with steak. And then you give it like all the parameters. On the 25th of every month, I want you to send me suggestions with ingredients lists and what I need to buy at the store, because that's when I go to Costco. And so you set that up once, and it just reminds you on the 25th of every month moving forward. And you don't ever have to think about it again. You don't have to sit down and be like, okay, what am I going to cook next month? And what ingredients do I need? It's just like giving it to you, and it saves maybe 30 minutes or an hour of your time, right? That's an example of a task. If there's somebody out there who's like, oh, dude, I'm a trader, and I've set a task so that every morning at 6 a.m. when the market opens, I know what the opening price is of Apple, and it's saved me X period of time, and I've made money by day trading doing this. I would consider that still a wrapper, right? You're using AI as a tool. Yeah. If there's anybody out there who's listening that's been playing around with this stuff and they're like, oh, dude, I've been using it for business applications and I've made money in this way. That's what I want to know about. How have you been using AI to make money? Not necessarily just like a cool chat interface, but how have you created something, systematized it within your business that you're currently making money with, and then featuring those?
Or within your life. Side hustle.
Yeah. I just think featuring those would be so interesting, because it's going to give us ideas. We're going to be like, wow, I didn't even think you could do something like that. And it's going to give people who are listening ideas. Like, we're just sharing the best ideas that people are using to create these wrappers. And that's my ask this week. Like, just start sending us some of your ideas, send them to AI@cofounders.com, because I don't want all those emails.
Yeah. And it's like, on one hand, it's like, oh, these wrappers are cheap. There's no value. There's no inherent value. But dude, like, I did a podcast this last week about this guy on Etsy that sells $8 personal finance spreadsheets. He sells like 100 a day for $8, something like that. He makes a lot of money selling an $8 spreadsheet over and over and over, fully automated, literally passive, right? You and I could make a personal finance spreadsheet. We know how to do that. but we might just would rather pay $8 for someone else's because it might have different features, right? So like a sourdough app. I talked in a previous episode how I use ChatGPT to make better sourdough bread. So surface levels, like I'm not a customer for an app like that because I know all about ChatGPT. I know how to use it. But then it's like, you know what? I don't want to fiddle with the prompt and I just want it to work. So if I can pay $5 for it to just work, yeah, I don't need to sell this to 63-year-old Carol in Omaha. I can sell this to 38-year-old Chris who loves ChatGPT and just wants to save a little time, right?
Yeah,
these rappers are not going anywhere.
A very stupid, simple example of this would be you and I do our editing for our podcast. We've created very specific prompts now that we use. Hey, go through this episode and pull me 5 quotes that blah, blah, and we sort of list it out. You could sell that if we wanted to.
It's a business. Yeah.
It is a business. You know what I mean? But there are these things that we have used with AI that do help us make money. I would love to hear how other people are using it to help them make money. Like, it doesn't even have to be agents. Oh, well, I've got this agent going out and scraping and they're going to bring it back and clean it. Like, okay, that might be just too high level, but what are you doing just simply on a day-to-day basis that's making money with your business?
The GPT for Sheets we talked about. How are you using GPT for Sheets in whatever data you're looking at to help your life be better?
Totally.
I want to hear about it.
I really want to hear about that. We need to stand up this email. What should we call it? What should the email be? Because I don't want to get all these to our personal emails.
Every time I give out my personal email on the podcast, not a lot of people email me. So I don't really care.
Okay. All right. Never mind.
How's that for vulnerable?
Chris or Nick at cofounders.com. Either one of those. How's that for
or
vulnerable?
Both of us. Or both of us.
We could just have Kelly go in and categorize them easily, add them to a folder.
It's free publicity to you. It's good content for us. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, so we were talking about quitting. 2 days ago, I talked to a guy that has a good friend with the school community for guys that want to quit, and he's doing 6 figures a year. It's high ticket. I don't know what he's charging, but a handful of people in a digital school community trying to quit. So there's an idea for you. Okay. Another thing, quit.ai is a rapper. I don't know how well they're doing, but it's just someone to talk to. It's an AI to talk to that is built on how to quit. So there's one thing.
Dude, I've got an AI rapper for you.
Oh,
are you ready?
Yeah.
I think we both could do this, but you in particular. You should build an AI rapper that talks about how you evaluate opportunities. So like, we're just talking about this and we're saying, hey, it seems like is a big problem. What would be the first place you would go to validate whether or not as an addiction is a problem? Google Trends. You'd probably go to Google Trends and just see, hey, addiction over time has that.
Yep. Google
increased.
Keyword Tool. Google Perplexity. Yeah. I go to the Web Archive. I go to Reddit. I go to a third-party tool that shows how fast subreddits are growing. Like I go to Gummy Search.
Yeah. So if you did all of that stuff and then you started selling it as a rapper where somebody goes in and they're like, hey, I think that this is exploding in popularity and I want to build a business around this. Like, what do you think of the opportunity? And then it goes out and does all the things that you just mentioned or that we might use to validate something and returns back an answer. Like you've essentially just created a Chris rapper.
Yeah, it could be that, or it could be, how do I think of good business ideas, right? Because I could easily use AI to extract every business idea I've ever talked about and put it in an LLM or a wrapper or a spreadsheet or whatever. But how do I find my own ideas? Because you and I both know from our experience in co-founders, like you've got to be philosophically bought into an idea for it to really work for you. And the people that have emailed me and said, hey, I started a stump grinding business based on your podcast. This guy, Tyler Mumford, he heard our podcast from July, started a stump grinding business. Why? Because he really loved it? No, it was because he worked on a tree trimming crew in high school. So like he had that experience. And 2, he did B2B enterprise sales. And our idea was about B2B stump grinding sales. Mm-hmm. So he took those 2 data points from his life and that enabled him to philosophically buy in and start it. Whereas 99% of people, myself included, when I hear a genius idea, it's like, oh my gosh, that's a genius idea, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Because I never worked on a tree trimming crew. I've never done B2B sales. True. It's not my idea. Chatbot or a rapper or something that's like, okay, help me find ideas that are mine, that I am philosophically and maybe literally buying.
Yeah. Like help you get to the next question or like ask the next question that helps you get to the answer.
Yeah. Because Chris's ideas are cool, but those aren't mine.
Well, dude, I had somebody listen. So I had Hector Resendez on the podcast and he talked about his online trade school, which is freaking 85% margins. He's doing $3 million top line revenue, and it's revenue paid by the government. He gets free leads. It's just like, what the freak? That's a money printing business. A listener I talked to, they were like, hey, I listened to that. Turns out my dad was the education commissioner for the state of XYZ. And I realized I have a lot of connections in the space. He and his brother are starting one. Like they're in the process of starting one in 2 separate states. He called me and he's like, your episode kind of planted that in my mind. So I think what you're onto is everybody has their own set of experiences that they can pull on. Having a wrapper that helps them uncover where the opportunity is and where they can leverage those experiences is very interesting. Where it's like, okay, cool. Yep, I've helped you validate the idea works. Great. Why would this work for you? Tell me about your experiences. Or this set of experiences might be good for executing on this business. Do you have any of them?
Dude, yeah. Imagine if that wrapper could tie into their inbox and tell them why this idea is good for them. Because people forget. Like they forget. Like, let's say I put out that tweet this morning about the cement plant, right? Selling these retaining wall blocks. And you see that and you're like, oh, that's really cool. And then, but you plug that into the app and the app is like, dude, you helped your dad make that walkway and you loved it. You emailed him all about it 7 years ago. And it's like, oh yeah. Oh, now I really love this idea. I forgot it. Like it reminds them why they should be philosophically bought into it because they might've forgotten.
What's the guy on Twitter who has is it the Crush the Memory?
Yeah. Eric Kaiser.
Yeah.
Eric?
Great idea. I think it's an amazing idea because how many times do you have an idea you're walking around and you're like, take out your phone and put it in notes, or you take out your phone and text somebody or whatever. But yeah, there's cool software now where you can just dictate, automatically goes somewhere, it organizes it, etc. That coupled with, remember we talked about a couple of weeks ago, like an accountability group. Like, dude, you could create an accountability wrapper. Hey, I want you to remind me every Friday, because that's my business time, to follow up on these ideas. And there's always the reminder that's coming through, that's pushing through your notifications that you've got set up. Like I actually might do this today. Go to tasks and be like, all right, every single day at these times, I need you to remind me to be on this meeting or to do X, Y, and Z, because I may be up working and my messages might be behind another window, but ChatGPT is like always open kind of where I am. Yeah. That's a really interesting thing. Using it as an accountability partner. We're so smart.
We're really smart and good looking. Someone tell our wives, please. They need to know.
Don't tell my wife. She does not want to know. Her life is on the internet.
But she listens to all these though, right? Nick, are you there? Nick, you good?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Oh, that's like the litmus test to know if your wife listens to your podcast is if you talk about her. Because if you do, then she doesn't.
That's amazing.
Oh, we're off the rails.
We are off the rails. This is good though.
This is good. All right. What'd you think? Please share it with a friend and we'll see you next time on the Kerner Office.